Okay, so having recently looked at the first 7 teams relegated from the Premier League since 1992, and the 7 biggest clubs to have never played in the Premier League, today we're taking on another video idea that we saw suggested in the comments. Prior to the creation of the Football League in 1888, clubs had hectic schedules whereby they had to arrange random fixtures against other teams, playing only friendly and inter-county games, along with the much esteemed FA Cup. Aston Villa director William McGregor first proposed the idea of forming a league system in which each team played every other team twice to create a regular revenue stream for clubs. It was a popular idea, and within months, the world's first football league, comprising of just 12 teams, kicked off the inaugural 1888-89 Football League season. Today, we wanted to take a look at those 12 clubs and see what their fates have looked like in the 130 years that have followed since then. Here are the 12 founding members of the Football League. Where are they now? Preston North End, the Championship. Although we tend to go through these kinds of lists in alphabetical order, today we thought it would be more interesting to do it in order of where the clubs finished in that very first Football League season. Starting us off then is Preston North End, who absolutely breezed to the title in what arguably remains the most comfortable top-flight title win in the history of English football. Preston went unbeaten in all competitions, winning a First Division and FA Cup double. They won 18 out of their 22 league games, giving them an 11-point cushion at the top of the table back when a win was only rewarded with 2 points. With a large Scottish contingent, Preston actually had more Scots than Englishmen in their side back then, it was still an Englishman in the form of John Goodall who spearheaded the side, being named as the Football League's first top scorer. In the 130 years since, Preston have added just 1 league title, and that was the following year. They won the FA Cup once more in 1938 and were highly competitive with Tom Finney as their talisman in the 1950s and 60s, but haven't played top-flight football in more than 50 years, currently competing in the Championship. Aston Villa, the Championship. They may have finished some way off Preston North End in second place in the very first Football League season, but Aston Villa would go on to become the dominant force in the First Division during the 1890s. 7-time First Division champions, the glory days returned to Villa Park during the 1980s, when the club won 1 First Division title and 1 European Cup title in the space of just 12 months. Statistically the 6th most successful club in English football, ahead of the likes of Everton, Man City and Newcastle, Villa are currently in the Championship, looking to regain their top-flight status under Dean Smith. Wolves, the Premier League. One of only 3 current Premier League teams in this list, Wolves returned to the top table of English football in style last season, and they're currently leaving quite the impression on the country's elite. With a heavy Portuguese influence behind the scenes, in management, and in their playing staff, Wolves cruised to the Championship title last season, and are currently mid-table in the Premier League, having beaten the likes of Tottenham, Chelsea, and Liverpool so far this term. Founding members of the Football League in 1888, Wolves finished 3rd that season, and their glory days would arrive in the 1950s. BLACKBURN Rovers, Championship. Founded in 1875, Blackburn Rovers were already 3-time FA Cup winners going into the inaugural Football League season, making them one of the division's hot favourites. They finished 4th, and it wouldn't be until the 1910s that they won their first league titles. About 8 decades on, they added a 3rd top-flight title in 1995, becoming the first team other than Manchester United to win the league in the Premier League era. The Lancashire outfit were relegated from the Premier League in 2012 and even dropped into League One in 2017. They returned to the Championship last season though, where they've looked fairly comfortable so far this term. Bolton Wanderers, the Championship. You may be noticing a theme here, and that is in regards to the geography of the Football League's founding members. Overall, half were based in the northwest and the other half in the Midlands. Bolton are another from the northwest, and the Trotters have spent the majority of their existence in the top flight. These are dark days at the University of Bolton Stadium though, and having only returned to the Championship in 2017, Bolton look to be in serious danger of dropping into the 3rd tier once more this season. West Brom, the Championship. Currently fighting for an immediate return to the Premier League from the Championship, and doing a pretty good job of it, West Brom will be hoping they can avoid the unpredictability of the playoffs as we move ahead into the second half of the season. The Baggies were founded in 1878, and despite having won 5 FA Cups, their only top-flight league title came in 1920. Accrington, extinct. I know what some of you will be thinking. Accrington? They're not extinct. They won promotion from League 2 last season under John Coleman and they play at the Crown Ground. Whilst all true, that would be Accrington Stanley, who were actually rivals of Accrington FC for a number of years. The Accrington that we are referring to here were founded in 1878, but left the Football League having been relegated in the 1892-93 season, choosing to resign from the Football League rather than playing in the second division. That proved to be a poor decision. Accrington were later denied re-election to the league, and financial hardship was to come as a result. The club was dissolved in 1896 following a 12-0 defeat to Darwin. Everton, the Premier League. From a team that ceased to exist more than 120 years ago to one very much still alive and kicking. Everton are one of the institutions of English football as founding members of the Football League, 9-time League English champions, and 5-time FA Cup winners. For the last 3 decades though, the club has been slightly on the fringes, with the exception of one FA Cup win in 1995. They have shown ambition in the transfer market, but the Premier League's current top 6 is a tough nut to crack. Burnley, the Premier League. The team who finished one place above Everton in the Premier League last season and thus qualified for the Europa League, it seems unlikely that the Clarets will replicate that feat this season. Following a tough start, survival is the aim for Sean Dyche's men, but they should have enough to keep their heads above the water. Burnley finished in the bottom 4 of the first Football League season, putting them in danger of failing to be re-elected, but all 4 were re-elected in the end. Burnley have been crowned champions of England twice previously, once in 1921 and once in 1960. Derby County, the Championship. Another founding Football League member currently in the hunt for promotion to the Premier League, Derby County are in the Championship playoff places right now, in their first season under Frank Lampard. Despite being founding members of the Football League, Derby didn't win their first top-flight league title until the reign of Brian Clough in the 1970s, at which time they were crowned champions of England twice. The Rams' only glory in the FA Cup came in 1946, immediately after the Second World War, when they beat Charlton Athletic 4-1 with a famous forward line containing the likes of Rach Carter, Peter Doherty and Jackie Stamps. Notts County, League 2. The oldest professional football club on the planet, it makes sense that Notts County were a founding member of the Football League. The club was already more than a quarter of a century old by the time the 1888-89 season came about anyway. The Magpies have never been crowned champions of England, but they did win the FA Cup in 1894, a year after getting relegated from the First Division. Right now, the club is struggling at the foot of the League 2 table and in real danger of becoming the first Football League founding members since Accrington over 120 years ago to drop out the league system altogether. Right, there is just one club to go, but before we get there, my YouTube consultant is annoyed that I'm only asking people to subscribe at the end of my videos, apparently by which time everyone has already lost interest and is watching makeup tutorials instead. He suggested doing it in every introduction, so I'm not sure almost at the end of one video will make him happy, but I guess that's compromise. Where was I? Oh yeah, please do subscribe to HITC Sevens if you're a fan of the channel, and turn on notifications so you always know if we've made an upload. You can also follow us on Twitter, where I'm making a habit of screenshotting some of the most outrageous comments I see on the channel, so you might even find yourselves on there if you've ever commented anything really daft. Our username is just @HITC Sevens. Right, back to the video. Stoke City, the Championship. We backed Stoke City for a convincing campaign in the Championship this season, and they've really exposed me as the fraud and moron I truly am. Despite having the most gifted squad in the division, the Potters haven't been able to put any kind of form together, and they're just inside the bottom half at the time of this recording. I have a bit of a soft spot for Stoke, but despite being the second oldest professional football club on the planet, the team from the Potteries has never won a top flight or an FA Cup. That may all have been very different were it not for World War II, when Stoke had one of the finest squads in the country. The likes of Stanley Matthews, Neil Franklin, Frank Sue and Freddie Steele only really got one season together thanks to the war, and in that campaign they came within one game of winning the title. Stoke were relegated from the Premier League last season, but despite retaining the likes of Jack Butland and Joe Allen, they have disappointed in the Championship, and recently sacked their manager Gary Rowett. So that's it for today's Not Actually a 7. As always, let us know any new video ideas you'd like to see from us in the comments. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for HITC Sevens for more from us.